Hello and welcome to Conversations. I'm Robin Torres, your host, and our guests today are Crisosto Apache and Joey Criddle from the Two-Spirit Society of Denver. Crisosto is a member of the Mescalera Apache tribe and co-director for the Two-Spirit Society of Denver, and Joey is one of the founding members of the Two-Spirit Society of Denver and was co-director for 9 years. Thank you for being with us today. So you're here at Kansas City, Kansas Community College speaking on the Two-Spirit Society of Denver. Can you tell us what Two-Spirit means?
Well, Two-Spirit is a term that was coined out of the one of the international gatherings in Canada to replace the term Berdache, which is widely used through a lot of the anthropological and academic literature. So the Two-Spirit people had taken that into and embraced the term to replace it for another one, which we consider very derogatory.
Okay. And so what is, when you have two spirits, what is that?
Well, Two-Spirit is, it's something that has been practiced for generations, for centuries among Native people, to mean that their LGBT people within their communities was accepted and had a part of the community. So, and that's what we're trying to bring back, is
and
that tradition.
LGBT meaning?
Meaning the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered community.
Okay, so
that'd be a general description of Two-Spirit is LGBT, Native American people, but it's so much deeper than sexual orientation. The Two-Spirit is a culture, it's a tradition that goes back thousands of years. They are LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people in Native communities, but it encompasses so much more than just their sexual orientation.
So can you tell us a little bit about the tradition and how these were treated in the earlier days?
Well, in each culture, it varies because each culture has a name for their Two-Spirit people. Two-Spirit term is a very generic term, and the basic role that a Two-Spirit person played in each culture was to take care of the community, to make sure the community operated in a sort of balance. They would take on the cultural roles in ceremony, in learning the songs, prayers, blessings, creation stories, and they would learn that and take on that role and learn it for their life, so that they could pass that on from generation to generation.
Okay. Were there marriage ceremonies taking place? And
yeah, there were documented cases of people being married at that time. And it was well accepted among the community that, you know, those people were Two-Spirit people and they would go and live life accordingly.
So how were they looked at? I mean, were they looked at as being a higher status?
It was a high status. And in fact, in some of our friends from different tribes tell us that in their culture, they say if there's not a Two-Spirit person in your family, that your family line will cease to exist, that you have to have a Two-Spirit person there to keep that line going. And to have a Two-Spirit person in your family elevated your status, because most of the Two-Spirit people were medicine people, and they were responsible for taking care of any of the kids that became orphans through warfare or disease. They had to take in all the children. There were the storytellers, which kept our oral traditions going. That's how we know our history. And so in general, they were the caretakers of the whole tribe. They were mediators, which we still do that a lot. Any disputes that arose, the Two-Spirit people were the ones that had to take care of those.
Okay, so how would someone know if they had two spirits in your tradition?
Well, as a child was growing up and they had Two-Spirit tendencies, like if a boy liked to play with the dolls or anything like that, he was encouraged to go in that way. And there's one, I think it's the Mojave people, who have a ceremony called the bow in the basket, and they send a child in with a girl's toy, like a bow or a cradle board or whatever, and then the boy's toy, bow and arrow. And if he picks up the basket or the girl's stuff, they know that he's Two-Spirit, and if the girl picks up the bow, they know that she's a Two-Spirit.
So they would go from that ceremony to the other persons in the group that were Two-Spirit and learn all the things that they needed to.
And that they also will be welcomed in that position and in that role would be taken from that person to the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that would have been respected. I mean, there's a famous Two-Spirit person that was documented in a Zuni. Her name was Wiwa. She was well embraced among her people. She was also considered a sort of ambassador because she was discovered by these two anthropologists who at the time didn't like each other. But then she was taken to Washington and showed Washington what types of skills she had. And her people supported her in going there. But she lived her life dressed as a female and was well respected in her community. And she was well known for her weaving, her pot making, and also for taking care of the community. And in our presentations, we like to show pictures of her because she's always surrounded by children. And that's how you know that she's a Two-Spirit person, because that is part of the community. The young people are part of the community, and they're the future of Native people. And so we like to take care of them. Okay. And it was said that when she died, she was buried as the Two-Spirit person. And
how would that be recognized as being buried as a Two-Spirit person? Did they have special markers, or?
Well, what they did is they buried her as a Two-Spirit person, but they also remembered her as a male. Okay. So they put a pair of trousers on top of her.
She was buried in the dress,
right?
In a traditional woman's dress, but then they put a pair of pants on top of that to show that she was, she had two spirits, male and female. And when she was in Washington, D.C., they never knew she was a man. They talked about this beautiful Zuni woman. She went to the presidential ball. She went to the big society parties and all that. And all the time they thought she was a woman.
But what's curious about that situation is that she was 6 foot.
Yeah, which is unusual even for Zunis, because Zunis are pretty short.
So how would they carry on their daily duties? I mean, she carried on as a woman.
Right.
But she also obviously had other strengths or talents as a man.
Yeah, because she had her own house,
right.
She kept that. So she did her grinding of her corn, she did the sewing, she did the weavings, then she also worked in the fields with the men. And she had a big family, so she took care of all of her family.
And the beautiful thing about Two-Spirit people, and it's what it represents, is that their ability to move gender roles, to go back and forth.
Exactly.
And if you look at a lot of the terminology for the terms that each tribe uses, a lot of it describes transformation, change, the duality of male and female. So I really believe that that's such a beautiful concept, that people accept people for being able to move back and forth.
Okay. So tell us about the Two-Spirit Society of Denver and how you both got involved with that.
Well, our group has been around since 1999. Joey happens to be one of the founding members of the Two-Spirit Society of Denver. I joined them in about 1992, and I wasn't as active in the beginning. But throughout my whole life, I've always have been conflicted with how I should define myself. I came out at 17 to my family, but I came out as gay. But I looked at that term and realized that it was the closest thing that described who I was. And it wasn't until I came to the Two-Spirit Society of Denver that that term made sense to me. So that also encouraged me to go back home, to start learning my language, my traditions, my culture, which I have a very close tie to, but never really fully embraced it.
And your home is?
The Muscular Apache people in New Mexico.
Okay.
So a lot of what we do is we go around doing presentations, educational presentations. Sometimes we do demonstrations when we're able to do that. And we've been incorporated since 2006 as a nonprofit organization. So a lot of our focus has shifted from those presentations to how can we help our community in a greater sense.
Okay. And Joey?
So the Two-Spirit Society, a lot of Indian people, we have to leave our reservations to work, because there's not a lot of jobs on our reservations. So a lot of them come to the city to work. Well, a lot of the Two-Spirit people, when they leave the reservations, they come there there's no culture, there's no native culture there for us. So as a Two-Spirit society, that's one thing we offer, and so they get lost in mainstream gay culture, and a lot of them start making bad choices and unsafe choices. And the Two-Spirit society offers them a place where they can come. We offer the culture, the traditions. We teach songs, we teach dancing, which keeps us connected to our culture, so that when we can go back home, that we're not so lost. So the Two-Spirit Society of Denver, we offer that safe place for Two-Spirit people to come and be Indian. They don't have to give up being Indian because they're gay when they come to the cities.
And how large is your organization?
Denver is a transition city. A lot of Indians come there. They transition from there back home to other cities. So it fluctuates all the time. We've had as many as 50, and then we've been down to like 10 before.
Okay. Are you both involved with the gay movement or the gay rights movement that's going on now?
I think we support them fully.
And marriages
right.
that are mainstream.
Because that's a right we've been practicing for, like you said, centuries. And we fully support everybody to be happy. And I think love is something that should be experienced by everybody, not just a select few.
And how do you feel about what happened recently in Maine with the voting for the gay rights there, the marriage rights for gays?
I find it appalling. I find it appalling that the majority can vote on the rights of the minorities. I don't think that people's rights, equal rights, are up for majority vote. I cannot get that concept in my head that the majority of people can vote on the rights of a minority. That blows my mind.
So do you go to the rallies and the demonstrations?
Well, we've been involved in it from our native. Like we've had a couple of tribes that have issued marriage license to same-sex couples on our reservations, but the state that those reservations in refused to recognize them, such as the Cherokee women in Oklahoma, and then there was a tribe in Oregon that issued 2 women a marriage license, but the state wouldn't recognize it. So they're legally married as long as they're on the reservation, but they're not when they leave the reservation, and they have to leave the reservation to work.
I think it's a great thing that a lot of tribes allow that same-sex marriage. And that just goes to show that we've been, like I said, been practicing this for a lot of years, many years, and that we fully support people getting married and not having to view it as a right.
Exactly.
You earlier spoke on the different activities and things that you do when they come to society in Denver. When you find that new come to you, are they confused, and do they need extra counseling, or?
Well, a lot of them, they do have questions, but I think as Native people, once they realize that is a Native-based organization, I think they relax a little bit. I think a lot of, because a lot of people when they leave the reservation, and I certainly experienced this for myself, is that you're pushed into a culture that doesn't recognize you fully for what you represent, the activities culturally, historically, that none of that is presented so that they already know. So when you walk into the organization, it's fully accepted. They already know that you're amongst Native people. And of course, we're very welcoming, and whatever questions, and we also try to help them. Because a lot of them, they want to know like how they can get alcoholic counseling or substance abuse counseling. There are other organizations in Denver that do help us with that.
And you guys travel and speak with different colleges and.
We've been all over the United States. We've been all over the United States. We've been to Canada. So we've been in a lot of places.
And how well received?
We've always had a very good reception.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you for being with us today. If anybody wanted more information on the Two Society of Denver, how could they reach you? And
we do have a website. It's www.denvertwospirits.com. But that's probably the best way. And also, if you Google us, you just Google Two Spirits.
okay.
Our website should pop up.
If someone here came to you seeking help, what advice could you give to a young 17, 18-year-old, or what advice would be offered to someone who was maybe not associated with the Indian tribe, but just was confused about their gender role?
Well, I know that there's LGBT organizations all over the country. I would try to encourage them to get in touch with one of those organizations and see if they offer some resources.
So you would advise them to reach out,
right,
to seek some help,
and to be proud that, you know, when you carry shame with you, and usually the shame that a lot of gay people carry is given to them. It's not shame that they have on their own. It's given to them by their parents or society. And so when you carry that shame around, that's a lot. That's a really heavy thing. And so to teach someone to be proud that in our culture, we view it as a gift from the Creator, that only certain people are chosen to be Two-Spirit, to carry this. And so we view it as a gift. And so to teach some young person to be proud of that gift that they've been given, you know, it makes a big difference in their life.
On behalf of Kansas City, Kansas Community College, the Intercultural Center, and the Women's Resource Center, we thank you for being with us today. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Conversations.